Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Looks like we already got a couple people in the comments right now saying hello. Hi, everyone. Let me know where you guys are watching in from. Today, got my Premier Protein like we did last week, and I actually just got this new custom Yeti from my travel agent who is actually helping us with the Belize trip for next week. So we're just drinking some water out of that new Yeti today. So let me know where are you guys tuning in from and what's in your cup. And again, if it's 5 o'clock somewhere, no judgment from us here. So before we get started today, wanted to do a couple pieces of housekeeping, if you will. The first one is, first and foremost, I just wanted to truly thank you guys. You were so supportive and understanding and allowed me to kind of get a little vulnerable on last week's live training. So it just meant the absolute world to me to be able to kind of like really get in touch with you guys. And for the record, the rest of my week was awesome. Leading up to that, leading up to our call together, I was like really, really down in the dumps. Having that conversation with you guys, feeling just so supported and empowered by you guys was just amazing. So I just wanted to thank you guys so much. The rest of my week was awesome. And I truly do cherish every single second that I get to hang out with all of you. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, if you are watching, we got Indiana drinking from coffee. We got someone from the Netherlands, another Indy. We got Virginia. Awesome. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Part two is if you have not actually subscribed to the YouTube channel, I am going to do a little bit of self-promotion here. If you wouldn't mind, that just helps us tell YouTube that what we're doing every week for you guys is beneficial, is valuable, and could potentially help somebody else as well. So if you wouldn't mind, again, little self-promotion, go ahead. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you should be able to literally just scroll down a few clicks and click that subscribe button for me so that we can make sure, like I said, that we are not only helping you guys out and giving you things twice a week, every single week on the dot, but we can also be shown to other people as well who might need the same amount of support as you guys. So number two, thank you so much in advance for doing that. Number three and final piece of housekeeping, because I really suck at doing this at the beginning. I usually like, oh shoot, I have to tell people about this at the end. We're going to switch it up today and go ahead and remind you guys that the biggest EverBee event is happening literally next Tuesday. So we are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5. I wanted to make sure. We are 5 short days away from the biggest live EverBee event, and I literally could not be more excited. I hope that you guys can feel my excitement from us chatting today. What it's going to be, if you are not aware of it already, I'm going to do really quick. I'm going to go ahead and press enter because I already had this locked and loaded. Maybe. There we go. So in that most recent comment that I just put, that is actually the YouTube link that you could access the live event. Okay. So make sure I've already created it so it's really easy for you guys to access. Again, if you're already subscribed to the channel, you can actually click the little bell icon under this video and it will notify you when we go live next, which is going to be Tuesday of next week. So Tuesday, June 18th at 12 p.m. Eastern. I know usually it's on Thursdays at 10 a.m., but we got to switch it up a little bit. 12 p.m. next Tuesday, we are having a live in-person interview in Central America. Like EverBee is literally going international. We're going to Belize to meet up with one of the biggest and top names in Etsy and Amazon e-commerce sales. It is Jay D'Souza. If you have not heard of him, highly recommend looking up Jay's Way on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. He is a graphic designer. He is an incredible multi-7-figure Etsy and Amazon seller. And we are just going to be chatting with him, getting his insider tips and tricks. And most importantly, anybody who is live on the interview will qualify for up to, I think, 9 giveaways that we're doing right there on the spot. So again, I just popped that in the comments. So make sure you copy that into your URL. Put the notification bell icon on to make sure that you are able to attend. And someone asked me what the name is, so I'm going to go ahead and put it right here. His name is Jay D'Souza. with Jay's Way. So look up Jay's Way on YouTube. He will be cross-promoting on his own YouTube, but make sure you click that link that I just added to the comments so you guys can also see it from our end as well, okay? All right, that's all I have. Thank you so much for bearing with me through the few pieces of housekeeping. So today, we've got about 120 or so people hanging out with us right now. And you might have seen that we're talking about beginners tips or Etsy tips for beginners. So whether you've started an Etsy channel before or you are currently doing it and you're in the weeds and you're not making a lot of sales, today I am going to go over 7 unique tips that I can pretty much promise you probably have not heard collectively anywhere else. I did my absolute best to try to make these as unique and informative and strategic as possible, rather than find your niche, learn how to do design. Like everyone freaking knows that, but EverBee is all about giving you guys a little bit more. Like most people are going to give you the tip of the iceberg. We're going to go a little bit higher. Okay. So with that in mind, I do not want anybody to hop off this live training if you are already making sales or if you had an Etsy store for the past 3 years. Okay. We are actually going to show you some things that I literally just started doing in the past year, and I've been on Etsy since 2017. Okay, so it's not just for my beginners, but it's going to help my beginners go faster, get sales faster, get seen faster, but it's also going to help anyone who is just looking for that extra little added layer of kind of supportive things that you can add to your shop for views, visits, sales, etc. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and share my screen real quick. And Mike Ballman just said, ads are killing me. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, Mike, because not next week, but the following week. So let me see. I think that's June 27th. Yeah, June 27th. We're actually going to do an Etsy ads live training. So that's going to be the topic of this exact call 2 weeks from today. So make sure you go again, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. We already have that YouTube video scheduled as well. So go ahead and click the icon so that you can be notified when we go live. But we're also going to talk a little bit about ads today. Okay. So with that said, let's go ahead and get through. Like you said, this is, or like I said, excuse me, not you, but we're all in agreement here. This is not going to be your average beginner's YouTube training because we're going to go a little bit outside of what everybody else says. Okay. So first and foremost, the answer is optimize for SEO. So I literally put it in here. I am self-deprecating intentionally. Yeah. We all know this, Leslie. Like you said, you promised me it was going to be unique. Everyone says optimize for SEO. Why should I keep listening? Let's talk about some things that you might not know that could make this faster for you, again, as a brand new seller or something you might want to do for yourself if you've been selling for a while. So the first one is going to be long tail keywords. So I know you guys have more than likely heard this in the past, but you might not know why, like the reason behind it. So when we talk about long tail keywords, it's basically multi-word phrases. So as you can see here, instead of jewelry, handmade silver hoop earrings. So what I want you guys to think about is if you were a searcher or if you were a potential buyer, let's just say Father's Day, for example. I was literally searching on Etsy yesterday for Father's Day because I'm going to be on a plane on Father's Day. So I needed to go ahead and get this out right now on Etsy, on Amazon, whatever. So what stuff did I put in? Of course, I could have said gift for dad. And then I would have been presented with probably millions of listings that have nothing to do with my father whatsoever. But what I could do instead is I know Home Depot is the literal second home of my father. He also is a huge Gators fan. Even before I went to UF, we've always been a Gator family. He also was super into hunting. He's super into like baseball and softball for his kids. So why wouldn't I want to put those things in? So gift for baseball loving dad, or gift for bonus mom, or something of that nature, right? So anything that you can think of that might be from an actual searcher. Yes, of course, someone could type in jewelry if they really didn't have a direction of what they wanted. But theoretically speaking, most people, and I think you guys can agree with this too from your own experience, most people are going to go with the intent to buy something that they know that they want. So for me, let's use these for example. I've got these cute little, I don't even know what these are, hoop earrings, I guess. I don't know. Got them from World Market the other day. But let's say if I had this in my mind that like I know I am not a rose gold girly. I am not a silver girly. I am not a big hoop girly. And I don't want necklaces. I never wear necklaces. The only bracelet I own is a freaking hair tie, you know? So like it wouldn't make sense for me to put jewelry. It wouldn't, right? But instead, what I'm going to put in is gold small hoop earrings. Like actively, I don't want rings. I don't want bracelets. I don't want necklaces. I don't want keychains. And I also don't want rose gold earrings. I don't want silver earrings. I don't want giant earrings. I don't even maybe want studs. I know exactly what I want when I go to put it in. So you have to assume that theoretically speaking, like let's say 95 or more % of your potential buyers also know what they want. Okay. So with that in mind, and you've kind of been able to like see these analogies that I'm putting out there or examples. Now, what I want you to think about is let's say you're a digital seller and you have the ability, of course, to use the word digital or even digital products. Technically speaking, that is a multi-word phrase. But what if instead of digital/digital products, yes, you could use those, but I would use them sparingly and I would probably put them in the listing description rather than the coveted spaces of your tags and title. So instead, I would do something along the lines of digital marketing products for small business owners or something of that nature that allows it to, you're telling Etsy who you want to give this to, what they're going to get out of it, what the product is, etc. But then you're also speaking to a human through these as well, which we have to remember, AI, bots, softwares, search engines, they're not buying your stuff. A human is, right? So figuring out a way to speak to a human in a way that we know people, humans, are actually searching. Okay. So I hope that made sense, but I wanted to make sure most people are just like, use long tail keywords on their videos. And then you guys are like, what the heck does that mean? So I hope that that was a little bit more transparent of why we want to do it. I'm a very contextual person. You can't just tell me to do something because I have a problem with authority. I got to know why you want me to do it, and then I'm going to do it. So I hope that really helped you guys out as well. Before I move on to part 2 of this little section about SEO, I do want to hit on a few questions really quickly. So Mike asked, what about things like artful and various mixed spellings that come up in the keyword analysis on EverBee? Are these good things to use? Such a good question, Mike. And you know what's funny? Next Tuesday and Thursday, we're actually going to post 3 technically, but we're going to post 2 curated YouTube videos next week for you guys. Going to go live on Tuesday at 11 and Thursday at 11. When those 2 go live, it is literally an Etsy SEO part 1 and part 2. So it's around 20 to 30 minutes of literal intensive Etsy SEO training. And we actually are going over that in that video. So again, make sure subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure you have notifications turned on. But to answer this question right here and right now, misspellings are actively told to us by Etsy to not use. So you will see a lot of things on EverBee simply because there are how many? Like almost 8 billion people in the world. And a lot of people, including myself, are not great spellers. I'm great at a lot of things, but spelling and math are not 2 of my great things. And if my mom were watching this, she's my editor for all of the stuff that I do in my own business. So she would see that and agree. But because of that, that can kind of skew the data that we're getting as it relates to keywords. However, I've said this a couple of times, so I just want to reiterate it. If you've already heard this, just tune me out for the next minute or so. But for Mike and anybody else who might have this question, we want to use the keyword research tool on EverBee to do 2 things. One, of course, find keywords, right? We want to research keywords. We want to find high demand, low competition, whatever. But number two that we want to use it for is simply research. So understanding what things are in demand, even if it's misspelled. So no, Etsy actively tells us, I do not want you to use that misspelled keyword in your titles, tags, descriptions, categories, attributes, blah, blah, blah. But I want us to be able to look at those and see, like if we're seeing digital products, let's just use that same example. If we're seeing digital products, but like it's missing an I or it's missing a U, and you see that it's still being typed in wrong by hundreds or thousands of people, that is telling me digital products are in demand. And now I need to figure out what types of digital products. Going a little bit deeper, let's say, I'm just making this up as I go. Let's say Instagram story templates for small business owners. That's the thing that's in demand right now. But you see Instagram story with an I, or you see Instagram stories or whatever, right? It doesn't necessarily matter about the misspelling. Again, I do not want you to use them as your keywords, but I do want you to see that Instagram stories is the digital product that is in demand. Okay. Hope that makes sense. That's the two ways I want to use that. Also, Mike, and for anybody else who hasn't seen it, if you go to our channel, go to the live section. There was actually a live training I did, I want to say about 3 or 4 weeks ago, that's called, I think it's like making your master keyword list. And this is exactly what we talked about. So building out what you want your master keywords to be in a 4-step process, no matter what item, no matter what type of seller you are, etc. Highly recommend making that the next watch after this video is over so that you can see those 4 steps broken down even further. Okay. Someone also asked, can you get traffic on a saturated product if you use long tail keywords? I want to sell PNGs. Great, great question. Oh, thanks. Natalie just shared that video. Fantastic. Thank you. So Vent365 and anybody else who has this question, I think the answer is yes. So let's say, I don't know for sure. I don't think anybody would ever know the 100% answer to this, but I think it's worth a test. And the reason why is simply because if you, like, let's say mom shirt, we all know that, or nurse shirt, like teacher shirt, there are probably millions of listings competing for space under those. But if we were potentially able to change nurse PNG into nurse practitioner PNG, or I'm just making this up again, but like veterinarian nurse, I don't know if that's even a thing. I think it's a vet assistant or a vet tech, but let's just say we were able to go from nurse PNG all the way down to vet tech graduate shirt, vet tech graduate ping, whatever the case may be. Someone who is actively looking up vet tech graduate, vet tech, and then graduate shirt or graduate ping, you'll be able to rank for more than that one keyword that was nurse to begin with. So again, the answer is not 100% yes. I'm never going to say that ever on this channel, but I will say it is a very high probability that with finding the right long tail keywords, that someone who actually wants to buy a vet tech PNG or something, vet tech graduate, whatever, probably going to work. Okay. That's just my thoughts. Oh yes, Heather just said she just joined. She hopes this will be available later. Yes, the best part about joining these trainings, or even just at minimum being a part of our community on the YouTube channel, is this is always live on Thursdays, but it'll also be recorded and immediately accessible in our YouTube channel every week. So you can, I think we've done like 16 of these now. So you can literally go on our YouTube channel in the live section and access 16 different live trainings that are all pre-recorded for you guys. Okay. Let's see. We got another one from Mike really quickly. Before I scroll, I want to make sure I'm able to address these as they come in. When a competition is 0 or in a number, one does... Okay, I think it's 2 questions. 1, does that make it 0? And 2, is that actually a good keyword because the keyword score comes up as 0 due to the math? That's fair. So first of all, just so you guys know, a keyword score within EverBee is literally just a ratio of volume divided by competition times 1,000, I believe. Could be 100. Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong and I'm missing a zero, but I believe it's times 1,000. So with that saying, you're completely right. Something times zero, as we know, even though I suck at math, is zero. So you are right that the keyword score is bad, but it's probably because the keyword score doesn't have good data. So with that said, okay, that's what I thought. Yes, search volume divided by competition times 1,000. So I was correct. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't 100. So with the question being a competition is zero and the keyword score is zero. So the good news is my question kind of back to you, Mike, and for anybody else on this is if competition is zero, but volume of search is 500, to me, that is fantastic news because that means 500 people are actively searching for that thing, that key phrase, that long tail keyword, but zero people are competing for that space. So yes, the keyword looks a little crazy, but nonetheless, if people are actively looking for it, that's all that matters. Right. And when I say that's all that matters, you have to understand also that if it's super, super high competition, then the competition starts to matter, right? But in this particular case, what I personally love to look at is, yes, I like to, filter by keyword score so I can have the biggest ones at the top, lowest ones at the bottom. But you're bringing up such a valid point that if I do that, or if anybody else does that, you might be missing out on the ones that keyword score is zero or minimal simply because there's rarely anyone actually being a part of the verb itself, the word, the key phrase, the long tail key phrase, whatever. So I would say the most important thing to look at in that particular instance is going to be the volume. And as long as the volume is, 1,000 or more, it might be something to look into. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks guys so much for all your awesome questions. Let's go ahead and get into part two. So the next thing I want to show is, again, this is for anybody who is either thinking about getting a new listing live or anyone that's brand new to Etsy or just got started in the past quarter. So the second thing, is attributes and categories. So if you have a print on demand provider, most people would be going like me, I'm most people, by the way. Let's say you want to sell a t-shirt, you would simply select the shirt. Let's just say Bella Canvas 3001, which is actually what I'm wearing right now. Let's say you choose Bella Canvas 3001, you do all your descriptions, you put the design in, blah, blah, blah. Then your print on demand provider would send that information over to Etsy automatically. What happens there is it's going to basically be, I think it's clothing. Let me just make sure. Yeah, so it would say clothing. And then it would probably say like unisex clothing or something of that nature. And then it would drop down into shirts. So I wish I had a screenshot of this, but I do not. But it will basically show you that there are 3 different things, maybe 1 category, 2 subcategories that it went into. What I really want to caution you guys on, no matter if you're a print-on-demand seller or not, is I really want you to try to get deeper into these categories. Again, thinking like the searcher or the buyer. So what is someone actively looking up? Quick example is if you were to type in, I wish I had it in front of me, but I don't. But like digital products, for example, you can literally go like 8 different things, subcategory down to templates by just continuing to select new things. And you can actually do that within Etsy. So shirts might be where you want to stay, and that is totally fine. But I did just want to let you guys know if your shirts or anything else that you're selling are not getting the views that you want, or again, if you're brand new and you just want an extra tip, make sure to dive down into categories as deep as you can. That would potentially match what someone else would be looking up. Okay. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to say there is I highly recommend that, and literally Etsy tells us not to do this. So it's not even just me, it's Etsy like verbatim saying, don't copy what you have in the attributes and the categories into your titles and tags. Those are simply like, that's just such valuable real estate that you would be like wasting space with, quite literally. And when we talk about attributes, it's like the colors of the shirt, what holidays the shirt could be used for, stuff like that. So if you have Christmas, you don't necessarily have to just have Christmas anywhere else, but instead it could be Christmas shirt for mom or whatever. That could be a long tail keyword that we use comparatively to just Christmas because you already placed that in the attributes. Okay. All with me so far? Hope that makes sense. And thank you, Natalie, for hopping in and answering some questions. Next thing / last thing as it relates to the SEO. And by the way, we're only on part 1 out of a 7-part series. So I'm really hoping I can get my way through this entire thing. If not, I promise you, we will finish this list at a later date. But for now, let's go ahead and keep diving in. The third thing as it relates to SEO is the first few words. So a lot of people just say, SEO is important, or SEO is a combination of your titles, tags, and what you put in the listing description. I want to elevate that a little bit for you guys. So what we're going to say is the first 40 characters. This is exactly what Etsy tells us to do. So if you guys don't know, like where I'm getting this information from, you can look it up in the Etsy seller handbook. So the first 40 characters of your title are the most crucial as it relates to getting ranked within Etsy SEO, And then again, we want to speak to a human as well as a search engine. So you'll see 18 views in the last 24 hours, 20 views in the last 24 hours. This one doesn't even have a sale on it, and it's almost 20 views. So set of 5 Egyptian hand-blown glass ornaments, decorative by gold, mouth-blown glass. That's interesting. Tree decoration. Right? So the first 40 characters, set of, again, I don't do math well, so I'm not going to count these, but set of 5 Egyptian hand-blown glass ornaments. That is more than likely, a little bit more, but within the character limit that Etsy is saying is the absolute most important. What I'm seeing here immediately is set of, very important. We're going to talk about that in a second. 5, or let's just say 5. So set of 5. Egyptian hand-blown glass ornaments. That's number 2. Hand-blown glass ornaments is number 3. Glass ornaments, number 4. Ornaments, number 5. So this is literally what Etsy does, is takes everything that you are giving them and then finds different ways to match someone's query. So they could be breaking the first section of this particular title into 5 different potential keywords / long tail keywords. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Next up is kind of what I believe Mike said earlier, utilizing Etsy's good Lord, I just had a May stroke. I apologize. Utilize Etsy's advertising platform effectively. And again, if you do not know how to use Etsy ads, or you've never done it before, or maybe ads are killing you, is what Mike said earlier, that's totally fine. Make sure to tune in, not next week, but the following week. We're going to go through this together, okay? And let's see down here. All right, so the 2 things that I really want to focus on as it relates to ads. Again, we are going to go much deeper into this on the 27th, but for today's purposes, for a brand new person, I want to focus on these 2 things. For the daily budget, you can go very, very high if you want to. I believe, I could be wrong here, but I think the cap is $100 a day. But just start with something that's a $1 or $2 a day, and then gradually increase that on the listings that are performing over time. Okay, that's a very important caveat. You don't want to put a bunch of money behind something that's not driving unless you make the changes that are necessary to start making that listing drive. Whatever you want, conversions, views, sales, favorites, whatever. Again, we will talk all about how do I change it to make it drive in 2 weeks. But for right now, start with a budget of $1 to $2 and then gradually increase that as things start to perform well. Okay. The next thing we want to do is focus on best sellers. So when I say bestseller, you guys might automatically be going to, bestseller badge, but I don't necessarily mean that. I mean best sellers for you. That simply means a product. Let's say you have 20 products. If one product is outperforming the others and it's selling 5 times a week even, Etsy might not consider that compared to the vast majority of other listings as a bestseller. but it's a bestseller for you and it is a best performer for your audience. So focus on those to start putting money behind. If you do not have any of those, because again, this is a beginner's training. If you don't have any of those, that is totally fine. What I want you to do is optimize the crap out of your listings, every single one that you think will perform. Once you get it to that point, I personally like, and I believe Scott also shares this sentiment. He's another one of our like incredible partners. Highly recommend looking them up. I believe it's called The Brand Creators, I think, on YouTube. So we both share this sentiment that it's faster testing of whether or not something is actually going to do well if you put money behind it. Because Etsy is obviously going to put views actively to people who are paying them actively, right? So if you do all of the optimization and you feel like in your heart and soul that this is going to do well, why wait 3 to 6 months to confirm that if you can test it within 14 days through ads? Okay, so again, we always just being devil's advocate together. If that's something that makes sense for your business and you have the upfront capital to make it happen, that might be a good option, okay? All right, I have 2 questions I want to hit on really quickly before we keep going. Christy asked, can we share this great document? Oh, how sweet. Yes, by all means. What I'll go ahead and do is once we get off this, I will pop it in our private members only Facebook group, and I will also go ahead and pop the link to it in the description of this video. So yes, if you guys want it, by all means, it's yours. I'll pop it in there. And if you're not already in the Facebook group, Natalie, if you wouldn't mind also giving them that link, because I would love to have you guys join us over there as well. The next question, I advertise most popular listings, but also new listings. Oh, awesome. I change the items available for advertising quite frequently. Does that create a problem? Good question. First of all, Heather, awesome job already testing those new listings. First and foremost, great work. Second question being, I change what I'm advertising quite frequently. My question to you would be how quite frequently? Simply because I like to let things stew a little bit for around 30 days. So if you are changing things after something's not performing over 5 days, 7 days, etc., it's kind of hard to guarantee that is or is not performing, especially if things are based around seasons. So keep that in mind too. And I don't mean like winter, summer, fall. I don't mean Christmas. I just mean if something comes with a little bit of seasonality based on your buyers. So let's say my buyers, for example, are small businesses. June and July are kind of like quiet months for small businesses, but August through December is going to be huge. January through April are always huge. So I know I'm in my quiet months right now. So it wouldn't make sense for me to start like freaking out that my ads might not be performing as great. I can either scale back on the cost or I can just let them be until they get back on track. So I would say personally, however frequently, when you say quite frequently, as long as it's within like, I want to say letting things stew for around like at minimum 15 days, but preferably 30 days minimum. That's what I would personally recommend. And I think that I've seen that a couple times on YouTube as well. Cool. Sounds good. All righty. Yes. Let's move on. The next thing, obviously, it's ironic because I forgot that I put this in here, but I'm also literally just talking to Heather about it, is seasonal campaigns. So if you have the ability to align your ad campaigns with whether it be upcoming holidays or seasons, again, does not actually have to be either of those. It's just the seasonality of your buyer. So let's just say, let's go back to the vet tech grad. When do vet techs graduate? It might be May, it might be December, like all of the other graduates in the world, but you know your person best. When is that time? It might be time to push some dollars behind those during that period, okay? Also would highly recommend doing this at least 15 to 30 days prior to the event actually happening. I would probably even maybe say 60 days. So yes, you might not get sales, crazy sales during that first month, but you're telling Etsy that this thing is coming up in the near future and I want to rank for it way before the thing actually takes place, okay? The last thing I wanted to say with this, again, we will go over all of this in much more in depth in 2 weeks, but take a look at the keywords that are actually bringing in the actions that you want to take place. I've personally made this change myself where I used a keyword in one listing and then it outperformed every other keyword that I was being found for within my ads. So then I went on the back end and was like, I'm gonna put this in other places and see if it works. So want to make sure that you guys are also mindful of that. And you're not just putting a listing up, putting an ad up and letting it sit. It might be something that you could apply once you start seeing performance under one keyword to others. Okay. Someone asked, should I pay for Etsy ads only for my most viewed and favorited few items or all items in my store? Good question. And I think the answer is, to be honest, it's again, it's not one of those 100% answers. I don't even think it's like a 70% answer, to be quite frank. I think Etsy in the beginning is all about testing, and testing again. So if you feel that your listings, no matter which ones, but like your listings are as optimized as they can possibly be, like all the stuff we've talked about today or all the stuff we've talked about on past calls, then and also Etsy is telling you that they are because of the favorites and viewed high ratios. I would personally put money behind those first and then find out why views and favorites are not taking place on the other ones before I put any money behind it. Okay. Okay, cool. Anthony just said he's new to Etsy, something he's been looking into for a while, but he's a graphic designer by trade. How do you navigate an already saturated market? He said he has a keen eye, but realistically, what percentage of new shops actually turn a profit over a year? That is a really good question. To be honest, it depends, I think, on what you're selling and the price of the item. And again, when we're talking about a saturated market, I personally don't love getting into saturated markets myself. I like getting into underserved markets, but you could get into a saturated market in an underserved area. So again, going back to my example from earlier, I don't know if this is underserved, by the way. It's just something that came to the top of my head on this call. But let's say graduation or nurse is very saturated, but we dove down a little bit deeper into, I want to serve the underserved of vet tech graduate. So that's what I would recommend is like, if you want to get into a saturated market, I don't think that's a problem. I do think you can easily make money in it, but it needs to be niched down a little bit further into something that might be unsaturated within that saturated industry. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so he said he actually does children's books and nursery style prints. Personally, I think that could go a bunch of different ways that are very underserved on Etsy. So I think at minimum, you are at least on the right track because of stuff you're already doing for clients outside. And in my personal opinion, from my experience, if I can find a way to make my brand match like omni-channel, so my social media is my website, is my Etsy store, is my EverBee coffee live trainings, it just makes life easier for me because I don't have to be a new person in this other platform. I don't have to show up and remember all these different questions and answers for something totally different. So if you have the ability to translate the skill that you already are doing for clients into a product-based business, 10 times out of 10, I would highly recommend it. All right, let's get into number 3. Oh, I only got 20. Oh, I hope I can do this, guys. I'm trying. But y'all asking some incredible questions today. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy that I answer them in real time instead of waiting to the end, because I want to make sure you guys get exactly what you need from these. Number 3 is going to be create bundles, sets, or kits. This is probably, it should have been number 1 in my opinion. It's my own training, so I could have made it number 1, but this is the 100%. I wish I would have known this when I was first starting. And even after I was first starting for like 4 years, I didn't do this. And guys, when I tell you the second I did it, we made 10 grand in 1 month simply because of sets and bundles. So if you haven't watched our group listing trainings, we had one last Thursday. We had another video go live last Tuesday. Highly recommend checking those out, but let's go ahead and talk about what they are. So the first one is going to be product bundles. So let's try to see if I have anything on my, let's use this as an example. All right, so we've got this giant water bottle with different numbers on it. I drink a lot of water if you can't tell. And then we've got this Yeti tumbler, okay? Theoretically, let's again just bear with me while I get through this horrible example, but I could offer one listing that is the big water jug, $50. Then I could offer another listing that is the Yeti tumbler, $30. Or I could offer a third bundle listing because I am using both of them at the same time. I literally just pour my jug into here. So I can do both of those in a bundle for, let's just say, I'm just making numbers up. Let's say $80. So no, that's a lie. Let's say $65 because it would have been $80 plus shipping for two individual items had they bought them individually, but they can also have the option to bundle them together. Okay. That's number one. The second one is a themed kit. I have seen these everywhere recently, and they become so popular during the holiday season as well. So I wanted to make sure we were going over this now. So if it's something you want to add in, like Thanksgiving pie making kits, there's actually, this happened during COVID. A client that I have, because I'm naturally just a social media manager. I don't want to say just, but I'm a social media manager for a lot of different companies. One of the clients I was working with was like a little ice cream parlor in Georgia, and COVID happened, which means they were not able to serve for about 6 months. We got really smart. They came up with the idea of doing at-home ice cream kits, and that got them good for the next couple of months because they were innovative comparatively to just like taking it as it is and taking the L, right? So what can you create that people could bond together over? Or like, let's say crochet kits. Those are super huge. There's also an idea of, what are those things called? I actually have one literally looking at me right now. The diamond kits, like where you like place little rhinestones and it makes a picture. And if you can personalize those things, even better. So I want to make sure you guys know about a themed kit concept as well. Last thing is obviously group listings. So instead of, again, just selling one of something, so let's say, going back to our Vet Tech graduate shirt, let's say you have that as the example, but then you also have something else that is like maybe Vet Tech grad dad, Vet Tech grad mom, Vet Tech grad sister. And now you've sold 4 shirts for that graduation event comparatively to the one. Okay. Got a couple of questions. I want to make sure I hit them really fast. I have an item in my shop that is a bestseller at $4.50. I made a bundle of 7 for $10 that included that item and a bunch more. People instead just buy the $4.51 and even buy 2 different things that I have included in the bundle separately, spending more. I don't get it. That is honestly totally fine too, because you're getting more money, first of all, and they're getting served with what they wanted to begin with. So what I want you guys to understand as it relates to these listings, no matter what listing you pop up, it is very rare, unless you have a very committed and loyal buyer who loves you, the shop seller. It is extremely rare for a person on Etsy to go to a shop and start searching to buy stuff. Instead, they're going to type something into the search bar and then go through all of those listings that Etsy deems as relevant to their search, right? So what could be happening here is, because that is a bestseller, that is the one that is performing and ranking in search. So they might not even know that the bundle exists. So my options for you, if you have already done these, please ignore me, but for everybody else as well who might run into this issue, what you could do is that listing, you can adjust it to include a bundle option on the listing itself. So you could buy 1 or you could buy 7. So instead of just having 2 different listings, it's all in one listing. And then the other option would be in the description of the bestseller, put the link to the bundle. So it might allow them to go see that there is another option and make sure that's kind of high in the listing description itself. Okay. Let's see. So Heather said, so I would do 4 separate listings and then an additional listing that includes all of them. Is that possible for print on demand? Great question. So that's completely up to you, Heather. If you would like to have 4 separate listings and test each of them against each other individually, then test the bundle against the individual ones. Absolutely. First of all, that's going to be 5 times the potential for money. The other option, like I just said, for created by EJF, is you have the ability to create one listing with 4 different options. Actually, might not be true. I think Etsy only has like 2 variations you can do, but you can have those variations in there that's like buy this, buy this, buy this, or buy the bundle. Okay, that's an option. And then is that possible for print on demand? The answer is 100%, but you would create the listing in Etsy, not in your print on demand provider. So you don't want to move something over here because then it will not be a bundle. So you would create it in Etsy from scratch and then basically just go in and create like a sample order or a manual order for once something is purchased in your print on demand provider. Okay. How important is SEO in comparison to store rating? My store is really new and I did a lot of keyword optimization, but still see very few views. So when you say store rating, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean like if you have like a star seller badge, if you have 5-star reviews, is that what you mean by rating? Or are you talking about the listing quality score? Because the listing quality score is what is built from, I don't want to say SEO necessarily, but basically SEO is one of the things that goes into a high listing quality score. So I want to get a little bit, okay. So yeah, they basically said how Etsy values the store. So that would be what we consider a listing quality score or I'm going to forget it now, customer and market experience score. There's 2 different scores, like algorithmic technologies that they use to basically determine if a shop is in good standing and if a listing is in good standing. And a listing quality score is based on purchases, clicks, and favorites. So that's what I mean by it's not that SEO is more important or less important. It's that the listing quality score could be contingent upon whether or not SEO is performing in those 3 areas. I hope that answered your question. Let's see. Okay, so we're talking about long tail keywords again. Is it important for Etsy how the words are grouped, or can I mix and match and get more words in there? That's a good question. To be honest, like I said earlier, it's talking to a buyer and also a search engine at the same time. So we have to find that healthy balance. So I wouldn't just start randomly, it's called keyword stuffing. I wouldn't just start randomly putting a bunch of words into the 120 characters that you have, because then Etsy will start to see those as individual keywords if they don't flow. But basically what happens, this happens within literal milliseconds of milliseconds. When someone makes a search on Etsy, Etsy immediately starts analyzing the keywords and keyword pairings in your titles, tags, attributes, categories, and listing descriptions, and then starts ranking you in search for that person's search. And if you happen to match their search identically, you are immediately going to be higher than someone who just lightly matched their search, if that makes sense. So I would say the answer, not again, never 100%, but the answer is you can definitely mix and match. You can group things up together, but never do keyword stuffing. But know that that is what Etsy is doing, is analyzing all of those different locations to match the search most importantly. Okay. Is it good to add a link for another item in the description? Yeah, I think so, because that just offers more opportunity for them to check out other listings you have, check out your shop in general. Like for example, let's say you have one design on 10 different products. Absolutely. If you believe the person that came to the design might also be interested in a tumbler with that design comparatively to a t-shirt with that design, absolutely. 10 times out of 10. Yes. How do you find a listing quality score? Linda asked. Unfortunately, that does not exist to us. It's only something that Etsy has access to. It's an unknown number that we will never see. But basically, those are the 3 things that impact it: purchases, clicks, and favorites. And as that listing quality score grows, your ability to rank in search for those keywords grows as well. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 4. I've only got 10 minutes left, so I might have to either go over 11 or wrap this up in a different training. But the 4th thing I want to hit on is utilizing UGC, which is user-generated content. So one way to do this is obviously through social media. If you have social media and you're trying to actively promote this, you can find UGC creators, which we talked about in our social media training last week and the week before. If you haven't seen that, highly recommend go check that out. I'll dive way deeper into how to make this happen. But if you can get people with free product to make content for your page, that can be added to your listing photos, as well as obviously content for your socials. I also want to make sure that outside of UGC or in tandem with, you guys are also doing like lifestyle photos on your listings. So a lot of you guys, I don't want to like call anybody out. I did it too for a very long time, but a lot of people are just using the same old mock-ups that everybody else is using. And then you're just blending into a sea of everybody else. So if you want to really find a way to stand out against those for the same type of product, I personally recommend getting the item if you're a POD seller, printing it out if you're a digital seller, or obviously just making the item if you do handmade, and then taking literal physical people images of them. The reason why I say this is going to do more than likely better for you as long as you can create those good high quality photos is Etsy originated as a handmade location for people who handmade their items and wanted to sell them in a marketplace. So it's kind of like an online trade show, right? So if we can find a way to still keep that same sentiment, if you will, with what Etsy used to be, it's going to more likely than not vibe better with your customers who are actively coming on Etsy to look for unique, potentially handmade items that they couldn't get anywhere else. Okay. Obviously videos as well. I highly recommend adding videos to all of your listings for my beginners or anybody else that's been selling that's not seeing sales, because only I think 28% of listings on Etsy include a video. So that will help you stand out as well, especially in search, because as someone is hovering over the individual listings, the video will start once the listing is hovered over. So if you have the ability to do that, that will help you 100%. That's the only thing I will guarantee. Here's a few examples of like what I mean by those lifestyle photos. Like this is a real person. This is in 12 carts. This is probably a real person's door. Like it doesn't look like a mock-up, but it is a mock-up in a way, if you will. Okay. Last, or never mind, for this is going to be number 5, leverage Etsy's built-in analytics. So the first thing that I want you guys to look at, again, whether you are brand new or you've been doing this for a while, is thinking about where people came from. So that's going to really help you see, is my SEO good? Am I bringing people in myself, or is Etsy doing the work for me? Also, how well did Etsy ads do? Whatever the case may be, on your stats section should be able to scroll down maybe 1 or 2 clicks and you'll see how shoppers found you. That will be able to help you determine which of these might need to be elevated, okay? The next one is your conversion rate is really important. So you can actually, in the shop stats, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and you'll be able to see the individual listings and how they individually performed. Once you do that, you can click on each individual listing and it will pop up like this. So in this particular case, just so you guys know, a good conversion rate is usually between 3 to 5%. And it's calculated by the number of items sold divided by the number of visits to that item. So in this particular case, this listing received a 5.69% conversion rate over the course of the parameters that we set. But the other thing you want to look at too at the beginning, when you're first starting out, maybe you're not making sales yet, is the click-through rate. Because usually a high click-through rate means that you did the first listing photo and potentially your SEO appropriately. Now, if your conversion rate doesn't match your click-through rate, or if your conversion rate is much lower than your click-through rate, that's okay. That just tells us that these things on the front end are working, but then some things on the back end are not converting it to a sale. So that could be price, that could be the listing description not being descriptive enough, that could be maybe a lack of reviews, it could be lack of information within the remainder of the listing photos, a couple of different things to play with. But at least if a CTR is high, we know the front end is working. And by the front end, again, I mean SEO, your title, potentially your price, as well as your first listing photo. And then as you can see, a CTR rate is the number of views to a listing divided by the number of visits to the listing. So let's just say there were, sorry, it's actually, I had that flipped. I'm so sorry. Visits divided by views. So let's say someone, 16 people, let's just use this exact same example. 16 people saw the listing and decided to click through to the listing, but then 280 people saw the listing and decided to not click through. Whatever the case may be, it would still be 16 visits divided by 281 views to get us to that click-through rate, okay? All right, next one, which again goes hand in hand with number 3, which was our bundles, gifts, and sets, is offer personalized options. The two things I want to focus on here are custom request. So when you're doing a custom request or you are open to custom requests, all you have to do is go to your shop manager, go to settings, and then it's going to be right there under shop options, custom order request. It usually is not enabled by naturally, automatically. You will have to select enabled, but that basically just allows people to know that you are open to receiving requests from them. This does not mean that you have to make it. You have that decision whether or not you want to, but at least we are letting people know that you do have the ability to at least open the lines of communication for it. The second thing is obviously active personalized listings. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that it's made to order, whether it's digital or physical. And then you'll see once you start building out the listing, personalization is not toggled on. So you will have to click add personalization. Once you do that, you're going to put in the instructions for the buyers that you need to be able to make the best thing possible. This right here, make personalization optional for the buyer, is completely up to you, because there are some listings that can be personalized but are not required to be. So I put a little X on this, but if it doesn't require personalization, you can toggle that on. And then what I would do is just let them know right here, please add blah, blah, blah. But if nothing is added in, you will get the example in the mock-up photo. Okay, so something like that to protect yourself. And here are two examples of what I mean. So this is the personalized thing. This is where the add your personalization takes place. And they are also utilizing custom personalized personalization, whatever, in their titles and more than likely tags as well. Okay. Whew, I think I'm going to make it. The last thing is implement scarcity and urgency tactics. This is something that I just recently started doing this year, and it has helped tremendously. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew. And like I said, I've been doing this for 6 years. So if I'm just now doing it, you can start and get a lot faster, a lot more, traction than I did early on. So the first thing we're going to talk about is limited time offers. So you want to create a sense of urgency by offering limited time discounts or flash sales. So you'll see here in 20 plus cart plus sale ends in 2 days. So as a potential buyer, that is going to motivate me to go ahead and grab this, or I might have to buy it in 3 days for 25% more expensive of a rate. And that's very easy to do, by the way, in your Etsy shop. All you have to do is simply go in and go to marketing, sales and discounts, run a sale. And then when you're creating the sale, whatever you want to do, 25%, 70%, doesn't matter. Once you create that sale, you'll just put an end date that is within 48 to 72 hours. This does require you as a business owner to be a little bit more manual. So you will have to continuously update this as you deem fit for your business. But as you can see, that's going to urge me to grab this now instead of waiting. And the last thing is limited quantities. So unfortunately, I didn't really have an example of that, but limited quantities would basically, it would be the exact same concept. It would say sale ends in 2 days, and it would also say under it, low stock, order now, or something of that nature. Etsy actually does the hard work for us by putting those little blurbs like get now, might be gone, all of those different things for us, but you in the listing itself, in the stock quantity, would just set that at a lower rate. So like under 10, under 5, whatever you feel comfortable with. Keeping in mind, however, that is still a manual concept simply because if you go out of stock, I don't want you to miss out on those sales. So what I would recommend doing is just checking that, every 2 days or so, however frequent you are receiving sales. Okay. So woo, we literally made it on the dot at 11 a.m. So let me go ahead and just answer these 3 last questions we have before you guys go. The first one is, do you think using Midjourney to create your own mock-ups would be a good idea? No. 100% no. Sorry, I don't want to be like rude, but they do not want AI built mock-ups. That has caused a huge controversy on Etsy. So 100% never recommend making AI built mockups. The only things that could be okay is mockups that you are creating yourself. Let's say like through Canva or Place It or something of that nature, or you have a print on demand provider. So you're using the ones that they built that are live models, or you are going and obviously buying it and taking a picture of it yourself. Third would be there are a lot of lifestyle mockups on Etsy that you could purchase. But again, be very, very wary of, is this a real person or is this an AI generated photo? I don't want you guys to do that. Okay. Would you create a duplicate listing and change keywords that aren't working? Yes, 100%. I actually just did this myself about 2 months ago on a listing that was getting a lot of views, but wasn't getting a lot of visits. So they weren't having that click-through ratio where I wanted it to be. So then I made the choice to go ahead and duplicate the listing and test out a new title and new tags. And now I've deleted the old listing because the new one is performing so well. Are you able to pick and choose what you want to include in your sales, or do we have to include everything? Oh, that's a good question. Yes. So when you click run a sale, it will ask you include all listings. Before you click continue or like launch sale, it will ask, do you want to run on all listings, or would you like to select certain ones to choose from? Just select that second option, and then you can actually put little check marks on the ones that you do or do not want. The other really cool thing is you can run multiple sales at one time. So let's say, like for me, for example, I have one item that is $700. I'm not going to lie, it's a very, very premium item. So it's $700, and I offer at maximum a 40% discount on that item, because of reasons in my own business where if I made that any cheaper, it would not make sense for the other things that I'm selling. So 40% maximum. So I will do 2 flash sales at one time. That's 40% on that one, and then 70%, whatever I want to do on the remainder of the store. Last up, I just found a shop that is 3 months old and they had thousands of sales, and it's basically all AI. I don't like it, but I'm just saying 100%. I totally hear you. But that's just our personal feedback from experience with people who have either been shut down or people who had their listings removed simply because of AI mockups. So again, definitely test it. But also keep in mind, there are also thousands of people selling Taylor Swift stuff, and I would never recommend that any of you guys do that. Okay. So that's all the time we have today. I thank you guys again so much for being here. One last little note I wanted to leave you guys with is next Thursday, we will not be having a coffee with EverBee, which I'm very sad about because we've been doing this consistently for like almost 20 weeks now, but we will be together on Tuesday. So don't forget to tune in to that live interview on Tuesday. And to make up for it, I'm also going to post 2 videos for you guys next week on Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. So I won't see you guys next Thursday, but I will see you on Tuesday, and then we'll be back in action on the 27th. Okay. Thanks so much again, guys, for joining. Thanks again for being so communicative and popping all your questions in. I hope this was beneficial. And in a few moments, I will pop the link in the description of the YouTube video so you guys can have access to this document as well. All right, sweet. Well, thanks, guys, so much, and I will see you on Tuesday. See ya.